Ciao friends and welcome back to 2sex New camera lens, new microphone, and I finally got around to putting that up. Let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments and maybe on the brand new Discord server as well. But that isn't what I wanted to talk about today. What I wanted to talk about today is the debate around who's going to be driving for Mercedes next year. I keep seeing the names Lewis Hamilton and George Russell a lot. And yes, they're both obvious candidates for the seat, but I don't see Valtteri Bottas' name nearly as much as I think I should. Mr. Bottas gets a bit of a bad rap in this sport, mainly by being Lewis Hamilton's teammate. People in this sport like to compare teammates to each other, but Valtteri Bottas is up against a 7-time champion at the top of his game. It's a bit of an unfair comparison. Bottas has won 9 races since he joined Mercedes in 2017. And while Lewis Hamilton has won significantly more than that, Valtteri Bottas had to race Lewis Hamilton to win those. And he's even better in qualifying trim. So I wanted to think about what happens if he doesn't get a seat for next year. Let's say Lewis doesn't retire and George Russell gets taken on board as well. 2 British drivers, I'm not sure Daimler will be that happy, but since they diluted their interest in the team to only a third anyway, I don't think that matters that much anymore. Let's face it, if you've spent more than about 5 years in F1 and then you end up without a seat, there's very little chance of you ever getting one again. So if Valtteri doesn't get a seat for next year, it's bye-bye Bottas, we'll see you in WEC. So let's run through the other teams, see where he might be able to slot in. Red Bull would be silly to lose Max Verstappen at this point, plus he's under contract anyway. So the only seat available there is Sergio Perez. And if the experiment with Sergio Perez doesn't work out, let's face it, Red Bull are just going to put Yuki Tsunoda in that seat. They're not going to want another experienced driver to do the same thing that Sergio Perez just didn't. Assuming that it doesn't go well. If it goes well, obviously Sergio Perez sticks around, fine. Likewise at AlphaTauri, if in the eventuality Yuki Tsunoda goes to Red Bull, there are plenty of talented young drivers in F2 for Red Bull at the moment. I'm sure one of them would just end up being promoted. As for Pierre Gasly's seat, I don't think that's at risk. It's a possibility, I guess, but I don't see it. McLaren and Ferrari are both stacked. There is no way that Bottas is getting into either of those teams. So that's half of the teams ruled out already. I don't think he has a chance at Alpine because Alonso already signed that 2-year contract, and quite frankly, he's only there to drive next year's car anyway. And maybe if Ocon continues to wildly underperform, maybe he gets sacked, but you're not going to get Bottas in to replace him. That would be seriously killing off the Alpine Young Driver program, which was already a bit of a myth anyway. Aston Martin is the first team where I think he has half a chance. Not Lance Stroll's seat, obviously, but if Seb decided to call it quits at the end of the year, I can see them considering Bottas for taking that over. It's not a bad call. He's an experienced driver, he knows the Mercedes power unit very well as well. I think he's a sensible person to take on, if Seb goes. And really, it's a similar story at Alfa. Obviously, Antonio Giovinazzi is in that Ferrari seat, so there's no room there. But if Kimi does decide to retire, Bottas is a good candidate for that seat. But likewise with Vettel, it relies on Kimi going. You wouldn't pick Bottas over Raikkonen. And you definitely wouldn't pick him over Vettel. But if they leave, then those are some openings. Although I could see those teams choosing to experiment a little more, especially Alfa if maybe they need a little bit more money. The only way Bottas is getting a seat at Haas is if Haas were able to admit that they've made a mistake, which they aren't, so they won't, so there isn't any chance. Which leaves Williams, only Williams, Valtteri Bottas' previous team, and if Mr. Russell is going to Mercedes, then there's a seat open. And Valtteri Bottas and Nicholas Latifi is really not a bad lineup at all. They may be 2 of the most underrated drivers on the grid right now. And let's not forget, last time that Valtteri Bottas was in a Williams, he became the fastest man ever in a Formula 1 race. In Mexico in 2016, he set the all-time race speed record. And clearly he gets on with the team as well. I do think it would be a massive shame to lose him from F1 at this point. He's roughly the same age as Daniel Ricciardo, he might even be a little bit younger. And Daniel Ricciardo's sure as hell not done. But I also wonder if Bottas would be willing to go to a backmarker team. I'm sure he doesn't want to end up like Lewis's previous Finnish teammate Heikki Kovalainen. In any eventuality, I doubt he's done with racing. I'm sure if he finds himself without a seat next year, someone in another sport will be more than happy to pick him up, which would be an advantage to anyone watching one of those sports. And maybe I'm making this video far too prematurely. I mean, Bottas is in a Mercedes this year, and it does look like Lewis isn't the most comfortable. You never know if lots happens to Lewis and Max over the season. World Champion 2021, Valtteri Bottas could come out of nowhere. But of course, that's just my opinions on all of this. What do you think? Tell me down in the comments below, or discuss it on the Discord. Like this video if you liked it, share it if you know anyone who might also be interested. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I will see you next time.